Hello, it's Jo Alsop, Sable Studio Gallery, working from my studio at home at the moment, doing Jojo Mouse mini motivators. Some of the children may have already seen a mouse, Morris mouse, that I've done already with the rainbow. And today I'm going to do a bunny, a little Easter bunny with Easter coming up on Sunday. I thought it might inspire the children. And whilst I'm going to be painting mine, so I'm going to start with an outline sketch with pencil, then pen, then painting. The children could use whatever they've got, so colours, crayons, watercolour pencils if they like, coloured pencils, anything, absolutely anything. Now the sketch that I'm working from is an illustration that I did a long time ago, so there you see the bunny. Although children can improvise and personalise this bunny however they want, they could put maybe a flower on the dungarees, change the dungarees to a dress, change the balloon, have him holding a basket of eggs, have some little chicks in the foreground as well, whichever you want to do. Whatever you want to do is free to do. Don't be governed by what I've done. Okay, so use your imagination, but if you do want to follow this one, I'll do it step by step for you. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see what I'm doing, and I'll talk you through the materials as well. So if you look, I've got the watercolour paper, watercolour paints, pencil, I've got pen that's permanent, an eraser, a couple of brushes, 2 pots of water, one to clean out the brush each time and one to transfer clean water for colour. Okay, so the watercolours, whatever colours you want to use really, but I'll try and talk you through some of the colours that I've chosen for this one. So I'm looking at the shape of the head of the bunny, and let me just make sure you've not got too much of my head in and you've got more of the drawing that we're doing. So I'm looking at the shape being an oval. I'm going to start near the top, not right at the top because we've got to leave room for the balloon that's higher, but I'm going to start near the top, the oval shaped head. Then I shall do a love heart shaped chops, that is his cheeks if you like, and a little button nose. Going to do 2 little eyes, 2 eyebrows, do his downturned mouth. He looks a bit sad, bless him. You could do him with a smiley face if you prefer, but he's not sad, it's just the way he's looking. Okay, so I'm going to do the neck now and the shoulders, and then start the dungaree straps. Dungaree straps, 2 of those, and a curve to join them together. Going to come quite a way down with the dungarees so that I can fit all his body inside his clothing. And then when I get to the bottom, I'm going to add on the roll-ups there. Just makes it look quite nice. If you go wrong at this stage, just draw over the lines. Don't worry, because we're going to do pen, and so we can take out all the bits that we don't like afterwards. So do big feet, look, sticking out his skinny little legs again, and big feet. And then I'm going to do the arms. So one arm down by the side, one arm sticking out a little bit as if to hold this balloon. So I've got paw and pad. So one hand is one way and one is the other, whatever you want to call it. So we've got the underside and we've got over the top as well. So there it is, he's holding this love heart balloon here. Big love heart. Could be taking it to somebody that he loves after we are allowed to go out more and visit everybody, so it's something to look forward to. We could photocopy this, scan it into the computer. Parents could do that for you, and you could send duplicate copies all over the place. You could make cards with it, bookmarks, anything you want to. I haven't done the ears as long as the last time I did them, so I'm just going to add a little bit on, just so you can see how, when I put the pen on and rub it all out, it will get rid of all the lines that I don't like. Got 2 buttons on his dungarees, a pocket there, and 2 pockets at the side. We've also got areas of grass. I'm going to show you the drawing in a second because you probably can't see it. I'm not doing it too dark so it's easy to rub out, and I'm going to do 3 flowers this time because that's supposed to be good to do odd numbers. So I think I've done everything. I'm going to show you where I've gone wrong as well because I think that's helpful. You see his ears? How I've done some lines and then I've extended those lines, and also on his trousers. Okay, at the bottom of his trousers, I've added an extra line because one was fatter than the other. So I've fattened the other one out. But I don't have to rub it out and start again. I just put the new lines on, because when I do the pen work now, you will see that I will only go over the bits that I'm happy with. So I'm using a permanent pen. Now this one is a micron, but if you're unsure whether it's going to run, is try it on a scrap piece of paper first. I know this one doesn't run. It's called a water resistant pen, but you could use a biro after you've done your painting if you like. But if you're using the art pen, it means you can paint over it and it won't move. So I'm just going to draw everything that I've already drawn, but I might make slight alterations to improve the drawing with the pen. So there might be other bits that I spot that could be improved. I could do that with the pen, but it's a lot easier to draw once you've got the drawing on with pencil, because you've got lines to follow this time without thinking about it. You just follow those lines. So I'm doing the ears really, really long, inside of the ears as well, because they're going to be pink. And then we've got the neck, shoulders, dungarees, going around, wiggling down a little bit, so because of the creases in his clothing. Not had the iron out, bless him. There, we follow all of the lines that we've got, more or less, the nice lines that you're happy with. Do his feet, big feet. I do some little marks on his feet to denote his toes. Got a big arm, the side, little marks on there. We've got the other arm, which was an odd shape when I did it the first time, so I'm just going to rectify that. And then do his pad, 1, 2, 3. Do the balloon, go over the balloon that you've done. Don't worry if you go wrong, don't go back over it. You know, if you make a mistake, it won't matter. It'll be more noticeable if you keep going over it to try and put it right. So once you're on with the pen, very, very difficult to sort it out. So don't worry, you know, nothing is perfect. We don't need to be perfect. It's very difficult to be. We wouldn't want to be anyway, I don't think. So my flower is quite a scruffy flower I like to do. And then I'll do the other one at a different height. So rather than the same, I might do this one lower down, actually, more side on. And then I've got one at his feet here in the grass as well. Have we finished? Got the dots on the buttons. Oh, dots on his face. Forgot the whiskers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I think we are there. So I'll show you where we're at. And you can see that I have gone with the pen in different places. So I think I've improved the look of him slightly by going in different areas. So you could do that as well. Now going back to this, we're going to rub out gently, and don't rub backwards and forwards and crease it. It's just try and rub in one direction. This is called a kneadable putty eraser, which is really useful because it doesn't put bits all over the page, or at least if it does, it picks them up again because it's a little bit tacky. It does look like blue tack, to be fair, but it is a proper artist rubber. Okay, and then my favourite, I'll just show you close up, does look like blue tack. Show you now how neat he looks. Oh yes, ready to paint. Okay, so if we're going to paint, we're going to use just a couple of brushes today. So I've got my smaller brushes today, just because it's not a massive picture. And so I don't need a big clumsy brush, just need the smaller ones. And I need clean water. Using the clean water, I am going to put wet on his head. Wet on his head, wet on his outer ear, on his chops, bar his nose. So try and avoid the nose at this stage. Do the neck, do his hands, arms, legs, whatever you want to call these on this bunny. There's his legs sticking out the bottom. Wet those. Why? Because I think it's nicer if you can go wet paint onto wet. Because it's watery wet, that wet paint is going to sit in there and flow quite nice. Okay, so it doesn't leave really hard edges, it's a little bit softer. So I'm just darkening that slightly, go into his head as well, darken it, there we go, nice. Neck, arm, get some more paint on your brush. Every time you might need to just keep dipping in to keep the strength the same as you come down. Try and avoid the pad so that that could be pink to match the inner ear and the nose. But if you do go over it, don't worry. You could keep it as a dark brown nose, so you can apply dark brown afterwards. Doesn't have to be pink. It can be whatever colour you want it to be. Okay, so there's his legs. Don't worry about going over the lines either. I think it's nice and attractive if you can go over the lines slightly. Now pick up a little bit more pigment on your brush and I'll show you close up where we are. Okay, he's all wet, but you could use the darker pigment to suggest darker areas on your bunny. So maybe areas where would be shadowed. So for instance, the ear touching the head might have a bit of shadow. These little legs, because he's got dungarees on, because he's touching the ground, he might have a bit of shadow under there. So wherever you think, and you can see that the wet is going into the wet there. So sorry about that, I didn't show you the legs, did I, very well? But we'll show you now, look, dropping them in, okay. So I was looking at what I was doing, trying to show you at the same time. But you can see he is actually a mixture of tones of the brown now. So we've got some light bits, some darker bits. And whilst that's drying, I can move on to another area. So I'll wash my brush out and then we'll reassess where we're at. And then we decide where else we can go. Well, he's very wet. So if I do his dungarees, that's going to run. Okay, so I think it might be better that I do the balloon and the flowers at this stage. So choose the balloon colour that you want to do. I'm doing red, so I'm going to get a red colour. And in order to make it pink, how do we make pink? Well, red and white make pink, but in watercolours we don't often use white, so we don't need to. We've got the white paper, and by diluting your red with water and the paper is white, we've got then a pink colour. So that's how we do pink. A bit croaky today, sorry about that. But there we go with the pink, bottom of the balloon, doing the flowers as well. And I'll show you close up each time so that you may see what we're doing. So just dropping in pink, not worrying about going over the edges. Again, pick up a little bit more pigment, that is paint. Pick it up on the tip of the brush and drop some in where you think it might benefit. If you haven't got it on the brush, try again and drop it in, that's it. So we get a few petals that are slightly different colours. Some light ones, some dark ones. And then it just makes it more interesting, I think. So I'm going to wash that brush out and show you again where we are. Okay, it looks a bit messy at the moment because it's wet, but I do like the loose effect on the paintings. And if you like the end result of some of the work that I do, then obviously it's a good idea to try and copy the techniques that are used. Right then, so now where can we go with the colour? All right, now you could wait until it dries before you move to the next part. But if I want to help it dry a little bit quicker, sometimes I use a hairdryer, but obviously if you're using a hairdryer, do make sure that you get permission to do that. Or you could lift out a little bit of the wet areas by using your squeezed out brush to use like a sponge, just to dab off some of the wet areas to help it along a little bit. So you can see now that the bunny is actually getting more dry because I've used this brush. That's all to soak up the liquid. All right, so we're going to move to the dungarees, I think. You could actually move to the grass as well. So we're going to make sure the brush is clean. Every time we use a different colour, wash out your brush. Now we could dip into the blue and put the blue straight on, but if you like the way that I've been working, I'll wet it first with the clean water. So I'm going to wet his dungarees all over, so I get a nice soft floaty effect with the watercolours. So now I'll pick up the blue. This is called cerulean actually, this one. It's a really bright blue. You could use an ultramarine, but don't worry, blue is blue. Choose your favourite out of your palette. Okay, the primary colour is blue. You can't mix it. It is what it is. So you've got different names of blues as well. Okay, so I do his dungarees all over, and you can see how lovely and floaty that paint is. It's darker in places. Don't worry about that. That's what we want. If it was the same tone all over, it would be really quite boring. Okay, I've got a little bit of run on his leg. I'm going to show you how to rectify that. 1 second. So we wash out the brush, we squeeze. I'll show you where. We touch in. So where are we? We're here, and you just take that off, okay? So that has just pulled that little bit out. So that is one way of avoiding that. You know, obviously mine is still wet. You can wait until it dries and you don't have to rush, but I'm trying to be fairly fast with the video so people don't get bored, you see. I'm hoping you don't get bored. I think again what we'll do is we'll pick up the darker pigment, so little spot on your brush again, and I'll show you where I'm going to strengthen is near the buttons and the pocket there. So I'm just dabbing in a slight bit darker where I think it would work. So maybe a little bit here, there where his pockets are. Another little bit on his main pocket. A couple of lines there ready. Okay, and if you want to, you can manipulate the paint and get it running in different directions. I think he looks quite cute. Going to move to the green now, so wash out the brush again. Otherwise you'll have a bluey green, and I just want green. Now if you've got a certain green in your palette and you're not particularly fond of that green and you think it might be too dark for the project, can I suggest that you add plenty of water to it? That will make it lighter. So will the watercolour paper that's white. But another thing to do is to use the green that you've got, but also use the yellow that you've got to make more of a yellowy green. Okay, see that? Goes more attractive and bright. So I've got a nicer green, I think, to work with. And so I'm going to use that and just dab in a little bit of grass. Don't do the stems for the flowers, it's just put little blobs of grass around his feet for now, okay? And you can just do it random. You don't have to clean all the area and fill top to bottom and fill all the gaps. I don't do that myself. I've missed a flower off actually. I'm going to have to put the pink flower in because I had 1, 2, 3. I've just realised there's a flower missing there. We'll do that in a second, but before I move on, I said don't do the stems because this brush is a bit too fat to do the stems. So I've done blobs of grass, and then instead of that brush I use my trusty rigger and I pull. Let's see if we can see, so that you can see what I'm doing. I pull off the green longer bits to suggest the stem of the flower and some extra bits of grass. Try and go in different directions as well because it makes it more interesting. Can you see all them long bits of grass that I've just done? And can you see the flower that I was referring to that I've missed? It's not really got too much wet around it, so I think if I wash that brush out and I pick up a little bit of the pink again that I used earlier, just make sure it's clean, this brush, yep, and then I put that pink colour back in, it will all match up together because I've used the same pink as what I did before. So I'll show you now, that's the red. Now red and green are opposite on the colour wheel, so they really work well together, and so it's quite an attractive arrangement of colours there. Now the red that I've got on this brush can become pink with water. So if I get the red again and show you in this palette, hopefully you can see, I'm just putting a little bit of red in that palette. It's really quite dark. If I put water to it, it really does become quite light. And especially with the white of the paper, that will help to make it lighter to do the parts of the inner ear that is pink. And again, You could wait and make sure it's fully dry and then it won't run, but I don't mind a little bit of run here and there because that's just how I work, and I don't mind if I go outside the lines because there's no right or wrong. You must understand that. Don't worry and get stressed if you go over the lines. There's no rules at all. I'm going to use a brighter red, I think, and just get that nose standing out that slight bit more. So a little bit more pigment, less water. Right, then he's not far off. What do we think? Little bunny. Okay. Now, there are areas that you might think that you want to paint more colour, but I think some good advice is less is more. Less is more. So all I'm going to do is use the same green again, but go over some of the grass, just to make some darker bits here and there. A little bit of contrast, that's all. And I think as well, I'll put a little bit more brown back on the top of his head. So using the same colours that I've already used, but just to get a little bit more shadow on him where I think would work. And then I think we're about done. And you could sign it if you wanted to. You could write a message on it. You could do this on card so that you could post them off to people. But like I said, you could have loads and loads of copies made and send them out as Easter cards. You could send them as an attachment to family and friends via email. Oh, I've made a bit of a mess there, so I'm going to show you how to get that off. Okay, so I've got a little blob on my paper. Just show you, and I think he's finished anyway, but can you see the little blob by his ear? Now you could leave it, because sometimes if you try and get things out, you make more of a mess. But if you're brave enough, make sure you are brave, because you would have to thoroughly clean out the brush, and you would then have to put it into clean water and squeeze again to have a dampish brush there to try and get that little mark off. And then if it doesn't come out the first time, you repeat the process, clean the brush out, put it in the clean water and squeeze, and you put it on again confidently. If you're not confident, it doesn't work. And then the spot has gone. And there we have our Easter bunny. There we go. Okay, obviously he's wet, so I'm trying not to hold him up too much, but you can sign and finish him as much or as little as you want to. Now, that is the end of today's session for the children. Hope you've enjoyed it. I did say that I would be showing lots of my different mice. I'm obsessed with mice, so here's one. There's one that sits on a shelf with loads of others, so each time I'm going to show you a different one. I would like as well if parents could in the comments put the pictures of the children's work so that I can see what they've been doing. I hope it's kept them occupied for a little while, and I will see you again. Thank you.